right, guys. Uh, Good evening. Welcome to the Mutant XPerience, episode 2. Tonight, I have a very special guest, uh, Third Strike extraordinaire, and some of you may not know, but yo-yo legend, Yuuki, straight
How's it
from the
going?
Lone Star State. How you doing, Yuuki?
Well,
So, before we start with the podcast, I just want to apologize to people who are looking for episode 1. I'm still a noob at running my own channel, and I forgot to turn on the archive button. I forgot to turn
sorry.
on the archive button, and so there is no evidence of the podcast with Ryan. Well, there is actually. There's a short clip. So, Rom, I think Rom 86 or something. He made a little clip of the
Oh,
first
like the
podcast.
highlight or whatever on Twitch.
Yeah, yeah, like a little like 20 seconds of it. So that's the only evidence that the podcast was kind of shitty anyway. Obviously not because of Ryan, but mainly because of me. So, but anyway, that's the past. This is tonight.
Yep.
So how's it going, Yuki? I know we haven't spoken to one another, or we haven't really seen each other since TFC. So what's been going on with you
Yeah.
lately?
Just working, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
pretty
So
much.
So, I thought we might go ahead and start at the beginning. I'm sure a lot of people want to get to sort of know you and your background. So just tell me, man. Like, how did you? Not even like fighting games, but like, how did you get into video games? Like, was it like something like you played as a kid, or I mean, like,
Yeah, of
how did
course.
that all happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think my story is probably really similar, at least in the beginning to everyone else, where it's like I was a kid. I think I went over to like a relative or like family friend's place, Super Nintendo. Of course, I played Super Mario World as my first game. You
That
know,
that was your first
um,
game? Wow.
Yeah, my first game. Well, I mean, like, I'm 28 now. I think you're slightly older than me, right?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Or no, right? Am I wrong?
we'll,
Like, I
we'll,
thought.
we'll, I'll go with that.
Okay. Well, no, I just assumed because generally speaking, like Ryan and everyone else, they're
Hmm.
like 2, 3 years older than me. But anyway, so yeah, so Super Nintendo and like gradually just like different consoles. I think I was I played pretty much like the mainstream games and stuff like that up until I want to say maybe like sometime like PS2 era, like around that time. Like by then I was so interested or engrossed in my other hobbies that I didn't really play games as frequently, or if I did, it was just like games that I enjoyed and I didn't, try new games. Like, and then there was a period of time where I was even like just playing arcade games, and then sorry, I'm kind of going on a tangent. I don't know where to begin.
No, no.
As far as arcade games go, I mean, I played them when I was in elementary school. I'd play like okay, yeah, I'd play like Mortal Kombat and stuff like that at the arcade. I
Hmm.
was so young, like I would have to stand on a stool.
Hmm. Wow. So did you grow up in Texas?
Yeah, I lived in Texas 10 years, and
Okay.
then
Were you
from
born in
there,
Texas?
yeah,
All right.
in Dallas
Whereabouts in
area.
Dallas area? All right.
Mhm.
Okay. And
Um, and then from there, I lived in Hawaii for 8 years.
oh wow. Okay.
My father was in the military, so
Hmm.
relocated there. And then I lived in NorCal for a year.
Hmm.
And then after that, I've been back in Texas for, I want to say, another 8 or 10 now. Yeah.
Okay. So how did you get into fighting games? Like we all have like a gateway drug, right? Like gateway drug, like a gateway game, right? Like a gateway drug game that sort of gets us into like fighting games. Like for example, personally, like I grew up in, like I think it was like basically the capital of fighting games. It was like the LA area, SoCal, And I
Yeah.
remember as a kid, arcades were everywhere, arcade machines were everywhere, every laundromat, every bodega,
Mhm.
every liquor store, every supermarket. It's like every week there was a new fighting game. And so like I sort
Yeah.
of grew up with that. So how was it like that in your in your neighborhood or
I mean,
or
yeah, I mean, back in the like early 90s, like arcades were everywhere, even in
Mhm.
Texas, like I would go to a shopping mall or I don't even know, like just they weren't hard to find. Uh, so I played, yeah, like I remember going to the arcade playing like various fighting games, probably up until like Tekken 3 or so.
Hmm.
And I think around that time's when I like just lost interest with arcades and going to arcades, and or well, I guess with fighting games because after
Hmm.
that I'd still go to the arcade occasionally, but I'd be playing like DDR and like Beatmania and stuff like that. So
Okay. So Tekken 3 was like it came out like around 1997. So you
yeah,
were like so you were what like 13 maybe or 12? How old were you? Like
nah,
how
not
old?
even. If it's 97, then I would have been
10, right?
9. I'm born
9.
88, so yeah,
Wow. So and so
so young. Yeah.
so what are some other fighting games that you remember playing like
Growing
aside
up,
from Tekken? Yeah.
oh man, well, I played a bunch of like fighting games on console, like by
Hmm.
myself or with friends. So like I have like fond memories of playing like Sailor Moon Stars or something like that. I forgot what it is. It's like a
Sailor
Super
Moon.
Nintendo game.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like like Tournament Fighter for Ninja Turtles,
Hmm.
like World Heroes. Like I played a ton, man. I played like Fatal Fury Special.
Dude,
Just
I
like
love that game. That's
so
like one
sick,
of
right?
that's one of my favorite. Like I like it better than Super Turbo.
It
I
looks
think that
sick.
game is
Yeah,
amazing, dude. It's slow as fuck, right? It's like it's super slow, and like the motions for the supers are so retarded. Like
yeah.
I think Duck King, like
Oh,
the initial direction for his super is like up towards or something. Like how
true,
do you
true.
even how do you land that super if the motion starts there, right? Like it's I don't know. I have fond memories of Fatal. You know how much I love Fatal Fury Special, the Fatal Fury series. Like I remember there was a import video game store like not too far from my house. I
What?
must have been like in junior high. Like yeah, like an import video game store.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And you know how like back in the old days to get like to play Super Famicom games,
Mhm.
like you either needed the Super Famicom system or you could like basically break off. Like I don't
See,
know if you know this, right? Do you know
that's
that?
crazy because like I didn't learn about breaking the tabs off until
Yeah.
like the last 5 years. You know for like I didn't like stumbled upon it on the internet. I
Uh huh.
actually had it's behind me somewhere, but I actually had the converter. Or it's not a converter, but it's like an adapter.
Uh
So
huh.
it'll let you place the adapter in the Super Nintendo, and then you can put the
Yeah.
Japanese cartridge on top of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And I remember I was with my best friend when we sort of when we did the mod. That was like I guess my first ever mod, right? Like that's the first ever mod video game mod I ever
Yeah.
did. And
Dude, that's
like
so sick though. How did you even like hear about that or find out about that? Like,
well, you know, the guys that worked at the import video game store, they were like, you know, yeah, man, there's just these two tabs in your Super Nintendo cartridge
and that's it.
gap, dude. Just break them off. And I'm like, what? Break them off? Like, you know, I'm a kid, right? Like, I can't afford to buy a new Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
So I'm like super nervous. I was like, what do you mean break them off? Like, I actually have to like destroy something on my system? Oh fuck. So, you know, but we kind of sucked it up and went ahead and did it
Yeah.
and
But with
then
no
like
parental supervision, just
with
like
no
went for
parental
it.
supervision, dude. If my dad knew that I did that, he would have like beat me with like a stick or something,
Yeah.
you know. And so like yeah, like I loved Fatal Fury Special so much, I didn't even wait for it to like come out for Super Nintendo. Like the day it came out for Super Famicom, like I had the Japanese version, and you
Oh
know I
wow.
sort of modded my system so I could play that game. Yeah, that game is sick.
The
So
last thing I want to say about that game is I think it's like you mentioned ducking, right? I think ducking stage is like one of the best. It's like MC Hammer fucking got the
oh
guy
my
in the
god.
background, or it's him in the background.
Uh huh.
It's like lights flashing in the nightclub. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that stage is sick. Like yeah, this like almost all of the stages are good. Like I can't think of. I think the worst stage in that game is Andy's stage, like that really boring
Um.
like boat.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's like in Europe somewhere on the
Yeah,
canal.
yeah, that's pretty shitty. But like, remember Lawrence Blood stage with the bulls?
Yeah.
That's so
I
sick.
don't remember it vividly, but I remember
Uh-huh.
the character and I remember like the theme of the stage. Yeah.
Yeah. Who did you use in that game, or who did you like using in that game?
I mean, like I was like a little kid, like playing everyone.
Yeah.
I don't think I had a main or anything. Yeah.
You know they still play that game like in Japanese arcades, right? Like in Mikado. Like, did you ever like when you were in Japan? Like, we'll get to your Japan stuff later, but
Yeah.
did you ever watch like did you ever see any like Fatal Fury tournaments or
You
people
know,
playing in arcade?
I've never really watched another game tournament
Hmm.
live in person, but like of course Mikado videos, I've seen so many different games for it, you know, like Karnov's Revenge, Breaker's Revenge, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, dude, I love that game. So you can't you should never have mentioned Fatal Fury Special. Then
It went off on a tangent.
this podcast totally went
But
off the
anyway,
rails
but
already.
with the video games basically grew up on arcades and console. From there, took a break, went back to arcades, but mostly was playing like, you know, because DDR and all that stuff was so popular, kind of
Hmm.
separated from fighting games, didn't play it. And then after that, got engrossed in like Counter-Strike, like 1.6.
Hmm.
So like there was a period of time where that was like the only video game I played. And then eventually I found myself at the arcade, but this time because of the new games of that time, or the popular games of that time, like CVS2,
Hmm.
MPC2, and Third Strike. Yeah.
Hmm. So let's you know let's talk about Third Strike. So obviously the game came out in '99, and so like when do you remember sort of first playing Third Strike?
2005.
Okay, and so how did you get into that game?
So out of the blue, at 2005 is when YouTube came out, right? So
Hmm.
because of that, I had like a nostalgia thing where I was like, dude, I'm gonna look up like Street Fighter 2 videos, Mortal Kombat videos.
Hmm.
I wonder if there's tournaments for this shit. Like I had no idea. So I YouTubed it, found videos of Super Turbo. So I was like, oh man, like people still play like Street Fighter 2. I want to go play it. Went to my local arcade in Hawaii. They had a cab there, but no one played it.
So you were in Hawaii at the time when you got into Third Strike.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, no one was playing Super Turbo. That was the game I wanted to play. Uh, they had CVS2, NBC2, I think KOF or something, and Third Strike. Well, as someone who doesn't, you know, understand fighting games that well, what's the closest thing to Super Turbo? Must be Street Fighter 3, right?
Hmm.
So one on one. So yeah, that's how I got into Third Strike.
Hmm. And so you know what sort of like what sort of drew you to Third Strike? You know, as opposed to like Super Turbo. Like you know, like was there
Well,
something specific that really caught your eye? Like at first?
no, no. At first, I wanted to play Super Turbo, so
Yeah.
it wasn't like I was like enamored by Third Strike, like oh
Hmm.
wow, this game is amazing or anything. Honestly, it wasn't until 2008 when I
Hmm.
went to a SBO Quals at a Family Fun Arcade where I just saw like the level of excitement. And then by that point, like I had met some people, were hanging out and stuff. So it just naturally Third Strike like just made more sense. Yeah, it wasn't until then when I saw like Jimmy, Emphy, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah, like it was the year that him, Yi, 5 star, and Amir teamed, and the grand finals was against Pyro Kai, the Chun Li, and who was it?
Can I?
Six Star, yeah, can I?
Hmm.
Yeah, and just you know the amount of hype, I don't, you know, sounds
Hmm.
cliche, but it was just so exciting to watch. So that's when really I was like, man, I need to get into Third Strike more, take it serious.
So when you visited Denjin Arcade, had you moved back to Texas already by then, or were you still
Engine,
living in
yeah.
Hawaii? Okay. And so, you know, after you go to Denjin and you see how hype, you know, everyone is, you go back to Texas.
Well, well, at that point it was still FFA.
You know, FFA, yeah. Well,
Mm.
I don't know. It doesn't really matter.
Okay, well, just
I just,
saying, yeah.
yeah, it's just in my mind, it's always like FFA, Denjin, Interface, they all kind of blend in together. Um, so you were living in Texas when you first visited, when you attended SBO quals, or were you in NorCal?
No, by then I had already moved to Texas.
Okay. So you go back to Texas after, you know, witnessing all this hype, Third Strike action. And
Mhm.
so what do you do? Like you just, you know, do you start going to arcades to play the game? Do you play it on console?
No, it was like so basically just to rewind a little bit. So in
Mhm.
Hawaii, I was playing on arcade, and then I had the console version
Mhm.
with a pad so I can practice at home, and I play at the arcade. Just took it really casually,
Uh-huh.
and then I moved to NorCal for a year, and I played with Sebastian,
Okay.
Rom, Jimmy, those guys. But even then, I was just so casual that like I didn't understand the game. It was just I was just a fan. And then when I had moved to Texas in like 2008, that's when I don't know what it was, but all of a sudden I just felt like uh, well, actually, no, I think I do know what it was. It was because the previous year I had won the World Yo-Yo contest, so
Mhm.
I was kind of over yo-yoing at that point, and it's like, what else do I like? Well, I like fighting games. I think I'm gonna try to take it a bit more serious.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so how did you do that in Texas? Like what were you like did you seek people out to
Um,
play? Did you go to I don't know
yeah.
what the arcades in Texas were at the time, but
Well,
this is before UFO opened, right? Or no?
yeah, I was
Okay.
before. Yeah. It was. I'm sure you've heard of it. There's a place called Einstein's in
Mhm.
Austin.
Einstein's, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was still maybe around, but
Mhm.
at that point, I hadn't even gone to Austin for fighting games. Um,
Mhm.
what I would do is I'd play online before GGPO
Mhm.
on Kylera
Kylera.
on keyboard.
Yep. So you were a pad warrior and a keyboard warrior.
Yes, at various points of my life, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so like I went on SRK. Turns out Bucktooth Campbell.
Mhm. He lives in Dallas, right?
Well,
Or
he doesn't anymore, but at the time he did. So it turned out
okay.
him and this other guy on separate weekends and stuff like that, they'd or separate days they'd run or they'd host games at their places. So I started going to those two places and playing console with people there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I wasn't really playing arcade because there was one arcade here in the Dallas area that had the old American style cabinets that wasn't head to head.
Mhm.
Not the showcase, but the really like, bump in shoulders style. So we didn't go there.
Okay. And so how did you I mean, how did you start practicing like, in terms of, getting better at Third Strike? I mean, were they holding tournaments at Einstein's regularly or was it
I
just
mean,
you basically practicing on your own?
I don't even know about Einstein. So like I said, I've never
Yeah.
gone.
Uh-huh.
It was in Austin. Like that's
Mhm.
before my involvement with
Yeah.
Austin, which even then it's like, oh, something I want to make clear is I think people have this like assumption that like I live in Austin or like near it. Like I
Yeah, that's
don't.
right.
Like yeah, it's like 4 hours away.
Uh-huh.
And like I think a little bit further now because I live in
Mhm.
Denton area. So it's like yeah, like I'm not. I mean, I did have a phase where I used to go like almost once a month in
Mhm.
2014, but yeah, really like I since being back in Texas, like I didn't play arcade much. Yeah,
Mhm. So pretty much your main source of practice then is online then.
online and before console because up until maybe 2011 or so, we had
Mhm.
like a small group, maybe four other people that would still play Third Strike on console. So.
Mhm. And so what do you remember as, what do you recall as like your first memorable like tournament experience? Like like a big event that you actually participated in and that you remember doing well. Because I mean, did you
Um,
go to Sunroof Cup?
Yeah, I did. I didn't
Okay.
do well there, but I did
Mhm.
go. First time I did well. I don't think I made like top three or anything. But I don't know why. Somehow I beat Shen Chang.
Mhm.
Uh, and this was at Arcade UFO already. It was probably the year or the year after where they opened. So it must have been
Mhm.
2009. I don't think it was 10, but
Mhm.
um, yeah, I beat Shin Chang. If people don't know him, he's one of the grandfathers of American Third Strike. Uh,
Mhm. Yeah.
I
Like
think the viewers might not know. So, yeah.
yeah, like when I think about like the old school Texas scene, I always think about the four pillars of Texas Third Strike. To me that's Mopreme, Shen Chang,
Mhm.
Asian Hitler, and Fubar Duck. Like those
Yeah.
are like the four. I mean, I'm sure there were other really strong players, but you know, growing up and remembering,
No, no, I
Third
agree
Strike back
totally.
in those days, those were the pillars, right?
Mhm.
um, and so yeah, I guess like some people are sort of asking like, you beat Shen Chang. What do you know if it was at a major or like a how big was the tournament? Was it just kind of one of those like random tournaments?
I think it was bigger than the tournaments that they hold now, just because
Mhm.
Arcade UFO was new at that point. I think
Mhm.
Street Fighter 4 just started
Mhm.
in popularity like a year or two ago. So there's a lot of people there for that, as well as like I think there's like a SD tournament, a Third Strike tournament. So I know, I mean, do I remember like the actual size? No, but I'd say there were more people there than there are now. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
And then just personally, like the really the earliest footage I ever remember seeing you play was at the 25th anniversary.
Oh, okay.
So tell us a little bit about that experience. You know, um,
I mean, I don't.
do you, I know I'm asking
It's
you to
like,
remember a lot, but
yeah, no. I mean, I don't remember it that well. I remember like, yeah, I don't know. It was like a really quick weekend. That's what I remember.
Mhm.
And I was staying with a friend. So it's not like there was like a venue where like we all hang out at or anything like that. I mean, I guess UFO was, we'd hang out there.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I remember it being all right. Like despite it being a console tournament, like it wasn't horrible. It was all right.
Mhm.
I remember being disappointed from the results and stuff like that. But I mean, other than that, it was really fun. Yeah.
Mhm. So let's talk about Japan now.
Okay.
Um, because I guess that's where you obviously, you know, really like started, I guess, improving, I guess. So tell us about like how did you end up in Japan first and foremost?
I got invited to a yo-yo contest
Mhm.
in the fall of 2014,
Mhm.
like November. So it was a free trip basically. So I figured, hey, like if I'm gonna go to Japan for free, I want to stay there at least a month. So I stayed there a month, and I think some of the Koenji players. I don't know if you got to go to Cube, the arcade in Japan.
No, no, I didn't get a chance.
Okay. Well, some of the players there, like Ryan plays there, but or he used to. I don't know about now. But I don't know if you've heard of like Heboru.
No, no.
Heboru, he used to play replays Ken. Well, Heboru,
Mhm.
Kiyama, a Chun-Li player. Well, several of them were looking for a teammate, and they were like, "Hey, like, how much does it cost? Like, like, do you think you'll stay like for Co-op Cup?" And I was like, I don't know, man. I gotta check the price is to change my departure date.
Mhm.
And it turned out it was only like $150 to change the date. And I was staying at my Japanese grandma's in Japan, so I figured if I get to enter Co-op Cup, fuck it, I'm gonna stay an extra month. So
Mhm.
yeah.
And so that means that was Co-op Cup 2014. That was
Um,
that was Co-op
well,
Cup.
it would have been 15 because I went there at the
Oh, okay.
fall of 2014, in November of 2014, and stayed till Co-op Cup
So
of
that's
2015.
Co-op Cup 13,
I don't know the
I think.
volume
Like
numbers, but
let's see, 15 was this year. 14. Yeah, it
or
was
13
13.
then. Yeah.
Yeah. Co-op Cup 13.
Mm.
And and so Co-op Cup 13. So you decide to stay and you decide to compete. What was that like, that first Co-op Cup that you participated in?
Um, I don't know, man. It was like kind of overwhelming.
Mhm.
'Cause it was my first one and everything. I hadn't attended like a co-op cup or SBO or anything like that prior, so it
Mhm.
was I mean it was obviously like really exciting and fun. Had a great time, but uh yeah, I don't know. It was almost like hmm, I didn't know what I was getting into, you know. I was naive, yeah.
Mhm. And were maining Yun by then,
Yeah,
or?
I think so. Long story short, there was a period of time where I moved back to Hawaii for a year. Now that I
Mhm.
remember this, and I didn't have internet at my mom's place,
Mhm.
so I couldn't play Third Strike. That no one was playing there, except for like one guy who would be willing to meet up with me.
Mhm.
And around that time's when SHO show,
Mhm.
that's around the time when he was making like coming up in the ranks kind of thing and doing all these like Daipon loop and all these like variations or optimal combos. So it was like, oh man, like Yun's really cool. Like I can practice without someone, and
Mhm.
I can learn this all this new stuff that I'm seeing SHO and Yakun do. So
Mhm.
it was, I think around 2013 is when I picked up Yun.
Okay. And so, what was that like? In Japan playing Third Strike, like, because I know like you had been playing Third Strike like in America, and then what are some of the things that you noticed right away, like in terms of like the differences, like when
Well,
you were coming up here, and then going to Japan, and then obviously practicing and playing them on a regular basis.
yeah, I mean, this is 2, 3 years ago now, so it's hard to
Mhm.
say exactly. But I mean, it was just everyone was so good. I feel
Mhm.
like even their weaker end, lower end players are still. I mean, they're good. Like you can't say they're bad. Like
Mhm.
so just like the caliber of play overall was really good. And on top of that, I think we talked about this a little bit the other day, but their their top of the top players are like a whole new level. Like
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. And so you're in Japan. How long were you there? Like the first time? Like,
Two months.
2 months? Okay. And so so, you come back, and this is when you sort of started going, if I remember right, you started going to Arcade UFO more, because you
No,
said that there was a period where you were going to, or was
it,
that
wa-
before you went to Japan?
yeah, it was before actually.
Okay. Okay. And
Mhm.
so, so after Co-op Cup 13, you come back to America, so what then in terms of Third Strike? You just
I was
back to
still
online playing?
yeah back to online playing. I think maybe I went to Austin once or twice that after returning. Like
Mhm.
I didn't go down. I didn't get to go that much. Maybe 2, 3. It's kind of hard to remember, but I didn't go that often. Yeah, maybe twice or so. And yeah, like I mean, I play like one friend here occasionally,
Mhm.
but that was pretty much about it. Online, yeah.
Mhm. So let's fast forward a little bit to last year's Co-op Cup, because obviously, unfortunately, you weren't able to attend this year's.
Yeah.
But you did really well last year. You went to top. You made it top 8.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, we'll get into it, but there's so many
Yeah.
factors. I mean,
Definitely.
part of it is team members being strong. Some of
Mhm.
it is like
Luck of the
luck,
draw.
luck of the draw, literally.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then like the momentum of a game. Like in that tournament, I was able to beat Mester, but I'd say Mester is still a better player than I am, without a doubt, like no question. So
Mhm. And so obviously that turned a lot of heads. When you started, when you made top 8 in Co-op Cup, and then and so and then you go to you come back, and then you attend TFC. I talked a little bit about Ryan's experience in TFC. How did you like TFC? Like, what were some of the things that you remember most about that event?
um, just hanging out with everyone, it
Mhm.
was really fun. I felt like I was like younger again, just doing the whole like crash at in a hotel
Uh-huh.
room with like a lot of guys, a lot of friends. Like no homo.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was really fun. Just that whole like tournament experience and like basically, I don't know. I hadn't done that in a while, so it was really fun.
Mhm. And I know that leading up to TFC, you were really looking forward to playing, certain people. And so, how did
Well,
you? Mhm. Go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna say like yeah. I mean, I was looking forward to because like 5 star for example, I hadn't played him in 6 years or something.
Mhm.
So I mean, I was just curious how I do. Even with like Lloyd, I've never played him. Maybe I played him like 1 or 2 games in casuals at Sunroute Cup,
Mhm.
but other than that, I've never really played him offline.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
so yeah,
And
so
so.
it was kind of just fun to play people in person, I guess. Yeah.
Mhm. And so, like.
Oh, even with sorry to interrupt, but yeah, even like now that I think about it, there's even more names. Like, so I don't think I've played you
Mhm.
offline before. If I have, like, I don't think either of us remember it, probably.
I don't think so.
Yeah, or
I've probably forgotten a lot already.
even like Kang
Uh
or
huh.
Niabon. I played him 2 games in Japan, and that was it.
Yeah.
There's a little funny story behind that. I don't know
Go
if I
ahead.
should. Yeah,
No, no,
just
go
real
ahead.
quick. So it was like the day, maybe not the day after Coop, but like 2 days after. And I was in Shinjuku with a friend, like not Third Strike related, just
Uh huh.
a yo-yo friend. We had some like time to kill, so I said, "Hey, can I just go to the arcade real quick, see if they have Third Strike?" Um, and sure enough, it was Neobon and his friend. I don't know which one it was, but I think it was a Urian player.
Hmm.
Anyway, so I sit down, I play them like I use Makoto one game, beat the Urian, and then I play Neobon, I lose,
Hmm.
and then I played Yun or something, like I
Hmm.
won, and then Neobon beat me, and it
Hmm.
was like 3 4 games, right? And then I was like, oh, I gotta go. Like I don't think I even said anything. I just kind of like bowed, like nodded my head. I didn't think it was a big deal, but apparently that experience, like Neobon was like, oh, this guy's a dick. Like he just played a couple games and like bounced. Like
That's what he thought. That's what he told you later
well,
on, or
I mean, there's like a language barrier, so maybe
yeah.
that's not exactly the sentiment, but it was something like that. He basically like didn't have the best impression of me, like
Hmm.
because of that. Yeah.
That's funny. So like you got you got third at TFC.
Mhm.
And so how do you felt like you played that weekend?
I think overall I played good. I
Hmm.
think the last day, I think I was kind of t tired from the weekend.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not trying to make any excuses, so I hope it doesn't come across that way. But I think like, dude, I mean, a lot of us were drinking. It's like a stamina thing too, right? With co-op hub as well. But a lot of my tournaments that I participated in, like whether it be Japanese arcade ones or UFO ones, it's usually like really quick, man. Just a couple hours or something.
Hmm.
So,
And
um, mm,
were there any moments in Co-op Cup, not just obviously your matches, but just matches in general that sort of stick out to you, like from the weekend? I know it's a lot of it's a
TFC or co-op
blur.
cup?
TFC,
TFC.
like were there matches or particular bouts that you kind of remember being really excited to watch or be part of?
I'm trying to think. I don't know. Well, first of all, it was really fun to team with Ryan and
Hmm.
Neopon. That was fun.
Hmm.
Um, uh, some memorable things. I think watching you and Yi, that was really memorable. That was such a tense match
Yeah.
for both of
Um.
you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Yi and Gavin, that was a really good match.
Oh,
Um.
I don't remember that one vividly, but
Mhm.
come to think of it, watching Ryan and Yi, I got to watch that one up close. That was
Mhm.
pretty tense too. I don't remember if Yi was making any misses, but I remember Ryan making like I think he like guarded Jinrai and then like did like back fierce super, but like the back fierce didn't hit or some really weird stuff like that.
Yeah, 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 definitely. I guess that's why you do like standing roundhouse, right? I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know what move has a faster startup. Which one?
Uh,
Close standing roundhouse or
yeah,
back fierce?
close roundhouse has I think it's like 4 frame startup.
Yeah,
Or I mean, depends on how you count frames, right? It's like
yeah,
four,
that's true.
5. But yeah, and then yeah, so it's definitely quicker.
Yeah. Um, One last thing that I want to ask you before we go into our first break.
Mhm.
But you know, I think this was the first time you'd ever competed like at an American major, right? Like a modern day American major, right? Like
Uh,
aside from 25th anniversary.
right, yeah, for sure.
And so how was that experience, playing in a big I mean, you played in Co-op Cup, of course. You played in that stage.
Mhm.
But, the American environment and atmosphere is slightly different,
Yeah,
you
totally.
know.
Um, and well, first of all, let's say, I think being a player in Japan, I have like, there's like no expectation of me. Like, I'm just like some foreigner, right?
Mhm.
So I don't feel like, oh man, like I gotta do well, I gotta perform well. Like in Japan, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna do my best and see where that takes me. But at TFC, I definitely felt like, like I'm one of the players that people want to beat, or like I need to uphold some kind of expectation or something like that. Um, so I definitely felt a lot more. If anything, yeah, TFC was the most stressful Third Strike tournament I've entered. It
Mm.
was one of the funnest weekends as well, but it was
Well,
tournament wise.
you were dubbed the Titan, right? the
Yeah.
the hype machine was in full effect for the majority of 2016. You were
Well, I mean,
elevated on this.
like
So it's understandable that you'd feel pressure.
yeah, but I mean, even without the whole, Titan or promotional stuff, I think just the fact that, it's like, hey, like this guy made some splashes in Japan and, got second at Co-op Cup, like I think just that alone,
Hmm. But obviously, you're no stranger to pressure, and I kind of want to talk about that when we get back. And then what I'm referring to is your yo-yo career,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because you are, I mean, you're. I think you're pretty accomplished in Third Strike, but the things you've done at Third Strike apparently pale into comparison with the things you've done with yo-yoing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a quick 2 minute break, show some ads, show some promos for some Third Strike events coming up, and then when we come back, we'll have more with Yuuki, and we'll talk a little bit about your, I guess we could call your other passion, right, or your other
Yeah.
love,
Well, I don't know if passion is the right term, but we'll
hobby.
get into that. Yeah.
Hobby. All right. So
Okay.
once again, guys, we'll be back in a couple minutes. And also, I noticed you guys in the chat. You have questions for Yuki, and I know Denges. You asked if Yuki's going to be answering some questions, and so to answer your question, yes, we're going to reserve some time at the end of the podcast for Yuki to answer some of your questions. So keep the questions coming. We'll write some down, and we'll make sure that Yuki gets to them later on in the show. All right, guys. So we're going to be back in a couple minutes. But until then, stay tuned. All right, guys. This is Mutant XP. Welcome back to the Mutant Experience podcast. My guest tonight is none other than Yuuki from Texas. And so, Yuuki, obviously, we know each other through Third Strike.
Mhm.
Um, but what you're really known for, apparently, and of course I didn't know this, is that you are quite accomplished in the, I guess, what we would call the pro yo-yo circuit. I guess, what
Uh,
is that, what it's called, or yo-yoing,
no,
or
I don't know, just the
what's it
yo-yo
called?
scene. I don't know.
The yo-yo scene, is that what it's called? The
I don't
yo-yo
know. If,
scene.
I don't know if that's what it's called, but yeah, the yo-yo community or scene or yeah.
Uh-huh. And so, you know, I want to sort of preface this segment. For some reason, I'm more excited about this segment than than anything we're going to talk about with Third Strike. Maybe I shouldn't say that out loud. But anyway,
No.
so 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 tell me about the yo-yo scene. Like if someone asked you, like, okay, what's the yo-yo scene all about? How would you describe it to them?
Okay, well, I guess the yo-yo scene separated into, I guess, two categories you can say, like the competitive scene
Mm-hmm.
and then also just like yo-yoing as a hobby or
Mm-hmm.
non-competitive, I guess is a
Mm-hmm.
good way to put it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yep.
And so what part? So you're obviously part of the competitive world, right?
I used to be. I'm not
Okay.
anymore.
Okay. And so, I just want to go ahead and just run down some of your accomplishments. Okay. So apparently, you've won multiple world and US championships,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
I think,
Two world, three national.
wow. And so when did you start, you know, how did you get into yo-yoing? Like, was it something like with video games, like you did it as a kid, or like, do you remember
Uh,
when you first picked up your first yo-yo?
yeah, I don't know if it was my very first, but I distinctly remember in the late 90s, around 97, 98. Probably 97 actually. That was around the time that yo-yoing was super popular and being promoted by a Japanese toy company.
Mhm.
So it was like, you know how like Pokemon had a boom in Japan or Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever, right? That period was yo-yoing in Japan. So my Japanese grandma sent me a couple Duncan yo-yos from Japan, and then like in all like the kids magazine type stuff, like with like manga and whatever in it, uh, for like kids that she would send me like monthly. It had all
Mhm.
this yo-yos content in it, so I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like I'll try it out, but uh, at that point, I picked it up, played it for like a week, and I just quit. Um, And then it wasn't until I moved to Hawaii where I got really fascinated and intrigued by it. So the people promoting yo-yoing in Japan were from Hawaii. So in
Mhm.
Hawaii, at their shopping mall, they had a local once a week yo-yo class slash meetup, where all these, people that Japanese kids were like idolizing and in TV commercials and doing performances in Japan. They were there at the a shopping mall, like, 5 minute drive away from me or something like that. So saw those guys performing in person. I was like, oh man, this is like really sick.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like a little kid. I was in the fourth grade then, I believe. Yeah.
And apparently, because I did a little bit of research,
Hmm.
you started in terms of competitive yo-yoing. I don't even know if that's a phrase. Competitive yo-yo. You
Yeah.
started pretty young, right? Like you won the world at 13.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, like, and apparently, you know, like only one other person has done that, like that old, or like, or
I don't know about today. I feel
uh
like,
huh,
see, and I don't keep up with every division.
uh huh,
So there's like multiple divisions in competitive yo-yoing. Not to go off on a tangent about that, but an easy example is like, so I play with one yo-yo and I do string tricks predominantly, right?
uh
There's one where there's two yo-yos and you do like looping tricks.
huh,
There's one where it's called off string, where the yo-yo's not even attached to the string. So there's like different divisions. So it's like different fighting games, right? Like
uh
Third Strike, CVS2. So yeah, I can't say like who are the winners lately of the other divisions.
huh,
Um, but I'm definitely on the lower end of the spectrum for age of winning a world title. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, obviously, competitive yo-yo. The competitive yo-yo, like, uh, it's kind of like a performance sport, right? Like it's,
Yeah.
you're, and so again, like I said, I'm a total noob. I don't
Mm.
know anything about the scene. So like, how do you get judged in a yo-yo contest? Like, are there
Um,
different categories? Is it predominantly the tricks you do? Like, is it like?
yeah, I think from what I understand, they've made it more the judging system much more complicated since I've stopped competing.
Mhm,
But the two main categories I'd say you're judged in is like the technical yo-yoing aspect of
mhm,
it. So
mhm,
how many tricks you're doing, was the combo difficult and stuff like that.
mhm,
And then the other part is more performance. So whether, and I think it gets broken down into like subcategories like choreography, stage use, music use. Like, I mean, I don't even know all of it anymore. So it's the actual yo-yoing as well as the performance aspect of it combined that they try to judge.
mhm. And so, is there like a time limit, or how does that
Um,
work?
Yeah, traditionally, and I think worlds and nationals are still this way. It's a 3 minute routine.
Okay, so it's 3 minutes, and how do you prepare routines like I was watching some videos of you doing the yo-yo thing, and I noticed that there's like music, right? Like, do you
Yeah,
pick the music,
yeah.
or so you actually pick the music during
Mhm.
your routines? Um, and and so like, how much thought do you put into that? Like, in terms of
I
how
mean,
long does it take you? Like for example, like putting on a routine. Like, what are some of the things that you do to sort of put one together, if you will?
well, um, so it's varied based on like my like motivation and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the past, there's been performances I've done like where I didn't like I made it that day and I didn't even finish making it that day, and I was able
Wow.
to place like first or top three. I don't think I can do that today. I don't know if anyone can do that today because of how competitive it's gotten. But I'd say the longest that I've actually practiced a routine, and like not the same thing over and over, but trying to like build the routine throughout was a month. That's the longest that I've invested into a single performance.
Wow. And so, where do you get your ideas for your tricks? Like, obviously, you're drawing from certain you're drawing from past players, or but
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, it's a combination. Some of it is past players, some of it is or there's a good portion of it that's like tricks that I've created. But I mean, that doesn't mean like some of it is just like trial and error, some of it's an idea that I had, some of it is just coincidence. So there's like different ways to come up with a trick or stumble upon it, depending on your approach and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd say a good chunk of it is my tricks, and then maybe portions or like a single element or a part of it is maybe somebody else's sometimes. It just varies.
Hmm. So let's talk a little bit about obviously competitive yo-yo is still a competition, right? And
Mhm,
so you're still competing against with other people.
mhm.
But how is it? How does it, like, sort of, obviously it's different from competing in a third strike tournament,
Yeah.
but are there like certain similarities in terms of how you prepare yourself for both
Well,
types of competitions?
yeah, I mean, I kind of want to talk about like the similarities and differences too.
Mhm.
Like, and we can get back to like preparation and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
as far as similarities and differences go, I'd say the similarities are, it's like execution based, right?
Mhm.
So with third strike, you have to be able to do the technical aspect of it. You have to be able to do combos, hit confirm,
Mhm.
stuff like that. And with yo-yoing, obviously, it's the same way where you have to be able to hit your tricks, land them, whether it be to the music or just whatever. But I guess the biggest, so it's similar like that in that sense, where you're using your hands and stuff like that, and but uh, the biggest difference is yo-yoing is objective,
Mhm.
or sorry, no, subjective, and then
Mhm.
third strike is objective because at the end of a round KO, like there's a clear winner, right?
Mhm.
With yo-yoing is there's a lot of factors like, for example, maybe the judge preferred someone else's style or performance over yours or your tricks. Or the judges don't understand. I mean, it's hard to say. It's like more like music, I guess, where it's like it's not cut and dry. Like what style or what type of tricks are actually better than another. It's kind of up to the players to decide them.
Mhm. And so, you know, are there certain things? My next question is, you've been to fighting game tournaments, fighting game events.
Mm.
You've been to yo-yo tournaments, your yo-yo events. Is there anything that like third strike events can maybe use or learn from yo-yo events? I mean, is
It's kind
there
of hard.
like you were saying, for example, right? This, and I think that's a really cool point that you made, right? That the idea that a yo-yo competition is sort of subjective, whereas in third strike, you either win the round or you lose the round. But in terms of just like community building and like making the game more hype and encouraging more players to play it, I mean, are there elements about the events themselves, yo-yo events themselves that maybe fighting
Well,
game events could kind of draw from?
it's kind of hard to say, just
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not a big of a part of the competitive scene. Like I don't attend as many contests and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or compete in them for that matter. But I'd say just like the nature of yo-yoing, and the
Mm-hmm.
nature of third strike is, third strike, you're playing an opponent, you're going against an opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Yo-yoing is more like a combo video, if it's like a fighting game analogy. So you're not actually trying to beat someone. You're trying to yeah, you're trying to outperform someone, but not at that same moment. You know what I'm saying? It's not competitive. It's not. Sorry, it's not versus
Mm-hmm.
head to
Yeah,
head.
like
Yeah.
a thought that I like sort of just had now, is sorry, I was in the middle of I was in the middle of queuing up all these videos, but
No problem.
yeah. But you know, a thought that I just had is like, how I don't know if you watch MMA or
No, actually, I
you
don't.
know,
I've seen like a match, but
uh
yeah.
huh. But like sometimes like at the end of an event, they'll give like awards for
Hmm.
like best fight or like best knockout or like
Yeah.
trying to reward players not just for winning but for how entertaining
Hmm.
they can be. And so obviously yo-yos, basically, obviously how entertaining can how much can you entertain the crowd, how skillful can you be and stuff like that. Like what do you think about that, like that sort of idea, like in a third strike event, sort of giving awards to like people who have like the best
Ooh,
match or people who are
that's hard to say. It depends on how much, like I guess credit or something,
uh-huh
like how much weight or clout there actually is to that award. Like, so
yeah
I'm they don't really do it when yo-yoing, but I think they've done it from time to time, and I think
uh-huh
one of them was like audience vote or something like that, like, and
uh-huh
or popular whatever, right? And I think like I had gotten fourth at Worlds that year, but I won that award. But like to me that was like a joke. Like really, like you're gonna.
mm.
So I didn't appreciate it. But and I know they've done like awards like I don't know, like best business in yo-yo or like I don't know, just like random stuff. But I think as yeah, if there's no weight or like recognition with that award, I don't think there's any point in doing it. But I mean, if you actually made it a real thing and like
Mm-hmm.
I guess not made it a side thing, but actually like a part also of.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm kind of like, do you understand what I'm trying to say? I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know
I
if I'm
get it.
expressing it correctly, but
No, I get it.
yeah,
Like there has to be actual standards, or there actually I think a lot of it has to do also who's deciding it, right?
yeah. Who's
Like who's
deciding?
deciding, like for example, one of the things that me and Ryan, I was talking to Ryan um in the last podcast about his thoughts on TFC and some of the things that surprised him. And one of the things that he said, during that Lost podcast, was that he was really surprised at how Gavin and Shotokan did
Mm.
Colin did in the tournament. Um, and I thought Colin was just. I know I've talked about this. Anyone who knows me and talks to me, I mean, my favorite part of TFC was hands down watching Colin
Mm.
Shotokan play in that tournament because I remember him from the very beginning. He was always known as this sort of Carapom lab rat.
Oh, you
But
mean the beginning as like when he was first starting
when
to
he
play
first
third strike?
started,
Uh-huh.
and I think that was just so satisfying personally. To see a player kind of break through and be able to place higher than he's ever been. So
Mm.
like giving recognition to people like that, whether it's through like a medal or maybe a little bit of cash here and there. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's
Yeah.
just some. It's
Well,
just an idea that I thought of at now. Once I was like watching those yo-yo videos.
yeah. No, I mean, I think it can be like a good thing, but it has to be
Hmm.
like, it can't just be like a one-off thing, like oh, we just did it for this tournament and that's it, or like,
Yeah.
um, or like you said, like who's actually giving the award. Um,
Hmm.
I think, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it. But I think, yeah, I think it
Hmm.
can be a positive thing if it's done well. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. So I wanted to kind of switch gears and go back to Third Strike because obviously
Sure.
that's what everyone's watching for supposedly. But I think. Oh wait, didn't you want to say something about? Oh well, we'll do that at the end of the segment, right? Your yo-yo.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
We'll
this
do that at
is
the
a
end of the
quick thing. It's
segment.
not a big deal. Yeah.
But obviously, like you were saying in the previous segment, you're widely respected, in America, and over the past few years, you've sort of developed this reputation, um, as a very strong third strike player. And so I kind of wanted to get into your mindset in terms of what you do when you play just a game of third strike. So I guess like what I'm trying to say is like, for example, right, like say you are you know I don't know, um like for example, like say you go to Game Newton like on Tuesday and you play in one of those tournaments. Like I
Uh-huh.
know I participated in one of them when I was
It's like the singles tournament, right?
yeah, the singles tournament, right?
Hmm.
And so say you sit down on the cab and you play an opponent and you've never played that opponent before, and I want you to sort of walk us through like what you're thinking and what you're doing as that match progresses. So like for example, you sit down, you highlight your character, right? You
Hmm.
pick Yun. Okay, we'll just say you pick Yun, right?
Hmm.
And let's say for example your opponent picks Ken, right?
Hmm.
You don't know anything about this player. So what are you thinking? Like, are you doing anything even in the during the character select screen? I know this sounds like stupid, right? Like, but
No,
it,
no, I don't think so. I think I'm just trying to like just like mentally prepare, and
mhm.
like by that I don't mean planning anything. I think I'm just trying to like, like like get myself settled,
Okay.
like try to, I don't want to say relax, but like not, don't be too nervous, don't be too relaxed,
Hmm.
just get settled. And I
Okay.
mean, like depending on the matchup, like yeah, I'll think a little bit. I'll think like, oh, okay, so remember, like this is strong against this opponent, or not opponent, this character. I do a little bit of it, but not like extensively. No.
Okay. So all right. So say your player picks Ken,
Mm.
and again, uh, you know, obviously unless they pick a super other than SA3,
Mhm.
or they pick yellow Ken because I hate that color. I think only
Yeah, not a
I think
fan. Yeah.
yeah, I think only scrubs use that color. But anyway, so um, so they pick SA3. So there's it's clearly they at least they know what they're doing, sort of at
Mhm.
that point. So the round starts, right?
Mhm.
So what are you doing? Like,
Well, it depends on the character.
hmm
Also, I'm Yun.
so you're Yun. Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know, like what I say I do or should do might not be the same as what I'm actually doing. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like, I don't, but I mean, what I should do is I should probably, already start thinking, okay, I need to build meter because I'm young,
Hmm.
and just kind of like, mm, just kind of just feel them out. Like, I don't, like, I'm not the type of player that, I don't, I think I play more defensively than
Hmm.
aggressively.
Mhm.
So I don't think I'd start trying to attack them right away. I just kind of like feel them out, use, kind of. So one thing Jung can do is do low strongs, obviously, to build meter, but a lot of characters have things to stop that low strong. So I do one or two, just kind of feel them out. Like, okay, are they gonna try to stop my low strong with like a stand roundhouse or like a sweep?
Mhm.
Kind of feel them out. You know, like how are they gonna approach me?
Mhm.
And then in the meantime, I think I'd probably, I mean, it depends. I don't. Some things I would do would be like stand medium kicks, a really pretty decent poke against
Mhm.
Shotos
Mhm.
from far. So I'd probably do some of that. Uh, if I can tell they want to play a lot of ground game, I'll myself start to look for whiff punishing maybe.
Mhm.
Shouldn't do too much of it as Yun, but I like to play ground game a lot more, I think, than Yun's supposed to. So
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you kind of went into specifics because everybody goes, yeah, like I'll spend the first few moments of the round feeling them out, right? But what exactly does that mean, right? Like, what does it mean to feel them out? And I'm glad
yeah,
that you kind of went into specifics. So you're
I,
kind of sort of gauging their knowledge, I guess, of the matchup. Would
yeah,
you say?
I guess to some degree, but to be honest, I think I'm more
Mm-hmm.
of like I don't want to say subconscious I think I'm more of an instinctual player to be honest. Like I do have a you know I do have knowledge of the game, but I don't think I'm like that. Like I don't think I'm textbook player. I
Mm.
don't like like someone like RKF, right? Like I at least the way he articulates himself and like talks about it, like he can tell you like okay, so like this matchup, uh, it's still partially an opinion, but he can kind of tell you like hey, like generally speaking, this is how the matchup should be played or approached. So I think I have some of that to an extent,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know if I practice that. Like I guess the way I play is I play really like I try to play reactionary and like I just play like as focused as possible. So because of that, I think there are times where a stronger player than myself, like maybe Boss or someone like that, would be able to recognize the opponent's intent or what the opponent wants to do or does. But I like a player like myself, I'm not at the level yet where I can recognize it as quickly because I'm
Mm-hmm.
playing more instinctually or reactionary. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about like a different situation.
Mhm.
Does your approach change when you know that you're going up against somebody that you have like knowledge about in terms of player?
A little bit, but not a ton.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say a ton. A
Mhm.
little bit though, for sure.
Mhm. Because one of the things that I noticed in terms of the commentary
Mhm.
during TFC is a lot of times the commentators mention the distinction between playing the player and playing the character.
Mhm.
And I mean, how do you subscribe to that philosophy that there is a difference, or do you think that that's not really helpful, like thinking about
Um,
it that way?
no, I think it's good to have it separated, but I think you
Mhm.
have to be able to do both. So like that's why someone I mentioned was Mester, right? And like he's one of the few players that's shared a lot of like knowledge with me
Mhm.
in my visits to Japan and like not so much recently, but online and stuff like that. And where was I going with this? Wait, what was the question?
Well, I was mentioning how people make the
Oh,
distinction between
right,
playing the character and playing the game,
right,
and which
right,
one do you do?
right. So he has like a lot of knowledge about the matchups, like playing the
Mhm.
character. But why someone like KO's Yun, or like Boss's Yun, like why they might outperform Mester's Yun. I mean, it depends on the day, of course, too, but is because I believe Boss, and I don't have much experience with KO, but just from watching it, I think that like they are better at playing the player. Um, and that's not to say that they don't know the matchups and they don't know how to play against that character, but I feel like knowing how to play against that character is like your foundation. And
Mhm.
then as you play your opponent, you're supposed to start deviating towards playing the opponent rather than the matchup or the character. Does this
Okay.
make sense? I mean, and I'm not
No,
saying this
no,
is right, but this is
no,
like this is how
no.
I.
That makes sense. Makes
Mhm.
perfect sense. Yeah. So sort of playing the character should be the foundation,
Mhm.
and then when you're feeling the opponent out, that's when you're kind of figuring out how they deviate or
Yeah.
what the things that they do personally.
Yeah, like I mean, it could be something like, oh, okay, like this opponent likes to guess on wake up a lot, or this Yun I'm playing against likes to do a lot of shoulders, or like whatever. There's a lot of things that like I can't think of it. Like I don't think I consciously think of it, but like I subconsciously already start to like gather that information.
Hmm.
Like I'll get hit. Okay, so I played Kang not that long, maybe like 2 weeks ago or something on
Okay.
Xbox Live, and like it took me too long to realize it or to fix my mistake, but I realized that he would do low short with Dudley to put me, he has the frame advantage, and I'm so used to Dudley's
So wait,
getting
are you waking up? Are you in the neutral? Are you both standing? What's the
no,
situation? What's the context?
just up close.
Okay.
So he jumped in, or walked in. He's
Hmm.
up close to me now. He'll do a low short,
Hmm.
and like for me, I tend to either parry high or guard high after
Hmm.
that low short because a lot of Dudley's options after that are high. Toward medium punch or medium kick, sorry, crouch medium punch, dart shot.
Hmm.
Um, but what he kept getting me with was sweep, kanipan, like
Hmm.
and I swear to God, I think almost every low short I guarded after that, I got hit by that sweep. So I'm kind of trailing off topic now, but that's just an example of something that like uh depending on the day or depending on the opponent, yeah, sometimes I'll subconsciously pick up on that and it'll register. But for example, that day, like I had to consciously realize that that's what was part of why I was losing. And
Hmm.
I did it too late. I realized that too late. So
Hmm. Yeah. So well, what you seem to be talking about is like like what how you're reacting, right? But isn't there like kind of going back to like when you were referring to with RKF,
mm,
like like here's a story, like for example, like when Vanau and RKF came over, and the first time I played Vanau, um, I was using Necro. He kept hitting me with standing strong, dude. Like and
far
like
strong.
yes, far strong,
Mm,
and I swear I can, and obviously this, I'm over 30, and I'm developing mild arthritis in my hands, and so we have to take that into account.
uh-huh,
Um, but like in my mind, I swear, like I'm seeing it. I see it. Like I see it. I see it come out,
uh-huh.
and I'm trying to parry it, and I never can. I never can get that parry. Like,
Well, I don't.
but in my mind, like I
Uh-huh,
see it. Like I know it's. I see it coming out, and so I was talking to RKF afterwards,
uh-huh.
and I just want to. I don't know. I don't have the frame data handy because I just had this thought right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and look right now. But
If I had to guess, like I think Ryu's stand strong or far strong is like 6 frame startup. I think seven if you count
okay,
the
so
other way.
that's what I thought. So Ryu's standing far standing strong is
Mhm.
5 frame startup.
Oh,
Okay,
okay. Well, but that's okay. Anyway, go ahead.
and and so and again, like you said, like you mentioned before, right? It all depends on how you count frames.
Mhm,
And afterwards, I was because literally that's how Vanilla was beating me. Like I would get him in the corner, right? And I'm like, oh, here comes standing strong, right? Like I'm gonna parry it, and it just never happens. You know what I mean? It's like standing strong Tatsu, standing strong EX Fireball, and then okay, there goes all my work. So like I talked to RKF afterwards, and I'm
mhm.
like, dude, I swear I'm seeing the strong, and he straight up was like, no, you're not, you're not.
Yeah.
It's humanly impossible to see a move that's like that's 5 frame startup. That's what he told me. He's like, there's no way
Yeah.
you're seeing it. So it's like the reason I bring that up is because like your example, right? Like the tick will low short,
Mhm.
and then you either and then
Well,
Dudley has
that I should be able to see. The sweep I should be able to see. The
yeah, right.
overhead is like
It's hard.
borderline. Like it's
Uh
like
huh.
depends on if that's what you're looking for. Like
Yeah.
probably can't unless like your like senses are really heightened that day
Yeah.
because you're rested and whatever. But
And then you have to factor in, right? You see it, and then that information has to trigger into your hands
yeah,
to guard a certain way. So it's like I was just reminded of that story, because you were giving the example of the crouching short and then getting hit by the sweep afterwards.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean that was just I don't know, it
I,
was just
I, I can't remember exactly. I feel like I've heard like what people say is about like the average like it's humanly possible to react to. I feel like I've heard Third Strike players talk about it in Japan.
mhm,
I for sure remember hearing in Japan that like I think it was like 14 or 14 or 15 frame cancel is like the level like a human can do like almost consistent.
mhm,
Like so like you like Yun's like crouching strong into dash punch. Uh and even then like it's not 100%, right? Like
mhm.
when Ken does low forward into Jinrai, like that's like situational confirms like you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know if
That's
you
funny
ever
that you say that because a couple years ago, I
mm,
remember another story. Sorry, guys,
mm,
but another story is, me, Holdat, and Nika.
mm,
We were at my house watching Co-op Cup 14,
mm.
and how like when Co-op Cup comes on, everyone starts talking about Third Strike. Everyone makes it seem like they watch it and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so
Everyone
I'll never forget, like, we were drinking, obviously, so we're sort of, I don't know how we got through that night because we did like an English translation. So basically, we were drinking the entire night, and then we just, we tried to like sober up for like an hour. We just drank a shitload of tea and coffee.
mm,
But I remember during the night, for some reason, Lloyd and James Chan got into a Twitter war about whether or not low forward Jinrai was 100% confirmable, like
mm.
Chen's low forward, and Lloyd was like it is, and then and James was like no it's not, and then it was just I don't know. I was just reminded of that story. It was just
Yeah,
hilarious.
I mean, I think the general consensus is that it can be confirmed like at a high consistency, but it's
Mhm.
like there's like a lot of factors that go in like that's involved in like part of it's like stand confirm like because you're visually seeing the opponent standing.
Mhm.
Another one might be like because of the spacing, right? It's like only if like they were to push a button or something would
Mhm.
it hit or what's another one? Hard to think. Or oh, you see the startup animation of one of their normals.
Mhm.
So like, there's a lot of factors. I'm like, if you're feeling it, like you can confirm it too. Like I feel like sometimes in the moment, like you're able to confirm things that you normally won't won't be able to. Like in like training mode where it's just like
Yeah.
over and over and over. I feel like it's much more difficult to hit confirm when it's repetitive like that compared to like all right, like I'm gonna try to hit confirm. I don't know. I can't think example like something difficult like can stand close fierce. Like I feel like that's borderline confirmable, but it has to be in the heat of the moment. Like that's all you're looking for. Like you know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like I guess we were. I don't know How did we get into this topic? Oh yeah,
Um,
you were talking about Kang, right? And he was hitting
um,
you with sweep after low short.
right. So we're talking about we're talking about adapting,
Uh huh.
and that's how we got into that. And before adapting, we were talking about playing the character or the matchup, and then playing the opponent.
Hmm. But I guess that's where RKF's advice, like like you were talking about how RKF, he has a lot of technical knowledge, and I guess that's where technical knowledge comes into play, right? Because like if okay, hey, this move has a certain frame startup,
Mm.
and so you know maybe you shouldn't try pairing it, or maybe you shouldn't try reacting to it. Maybe in this situation you should just play it safe and so forth and so on. So I guess that's where like the objective knowledge of the game really helps, sort of. Um,
Something I thought of is, have you ever heard of like, and I think this term is used like differently between
mhm.
different games. I think in even Third Strike it can be used differently, but like fuzzy guard.
Yeah, fuzzy guard.
right? So
Yeah.
like with like against Dudley, like
Mhm.
the idea is to like guard low and then guard high after
Mhm.
because dart shot is slower than a low short, for
Mhm.
example. Yeah. So I think like doing stuff like that, it might feel like, oh man, I'm reacting to this, but it's not always sometimes it
It's
is reaction genuinely and sometimes it's not. Yeah.
yeah. No, no, no. It's a lot of it's just muscle memory, right? If you're just used to fuzzy guarding, you're just gonna do that instinctually,
Hmm.
depending on certain situations. All right. So, with that said, guys, we're gonna go ahead and take our second and final break. But when we come back, we're going to answer some of your questions. So if you guys have any questions for Yuuki, definitely write them in the chat. I wrote down a few of them that were throughout the show.
Yeah.
Also, I'm gonna ask Yuuki what his advice might be to players from different levels. Whether you're a beginning player or a mid-level player, or maybe someone who's just sort of trying to break into that sort of upper echelon. Uh, and that's pretty much what we have for that last segment. So once again, guys, we're gonna take a couple minutes, take a break. Once again, check out some of the events that are coming up in not just here in America, but also in Europe. And we'll be back. All right,
Yeah.
guys, stay tuned. All right, guys, welcome back to the Mutant XPerience. I am Mutant XP, and we are here live with tonight's guest, Yuuki from Texas. And one of the last things that I wanted to talk about tonight, Yuki, is like I said before, you have this reputation as being this very clean and very efficient, and very strong third strike player. And so obviously, people are going to listen if you give them advice. And so, do you have any advice for third strike American third strike players trying to improve? Like, for example, obviously there's different levels, right? So,
Mhm.
like, for for somebody who just sort of is interested in the game and has just sort of picked it up in the last, say, maybe 6 months or so,
Mhm.
what would be some of the things that you would tell them to do, to get better?
Someone who's picked it up very recently, like in the
Yeah,
last 8 months, or they said.
yeah.
Um, okay, well, I think there's so many things that you could do, right?
Mhm.
I think like a really important thing that helped me out throughout the years was like having people to talk to about the game,
Mhm.
and and obviously like you want to build friendship and stuff, so you want to talk about other stuff too. But I think it's really important to just talk about the game.
Mhm.
Like anything new that you learn, share it with your buddy, anything, and then have it so anything new they learn, they share it with you, just exchanging information.
Mhm.
Now, depending on who you talk to and when they started and all that stuff, it's going to be different, right? Like it might be like I've had conversations with people on like AIM back when people used to use AIM and
Mhm.
Facebook Messenger and everything, where it's like, it becomes kind of one-sided, where like I'm sharing more information than receiving. But, you find someone that's like maybe not too far advanced or, similar skill or, I mean, have multiple points of contact. Don't just have one. Uh, but actually talk about the game in depth and not just on like a broad level, because I think sometimes American players they talk about the game too like broadly.
What do you
Like
mean? Can you give an
uh
example?
yeah, so like I'm not gonna say any names, but I've had a brief conversation on Facebook Messenger with someone who started comparing Third Strike to like I think like I don't know if it's MMA or boxing or what, but to like that kind of sport. And like that's more of like a philosophical
Okay.
conversation. Like and I think that's cool too. Like you should have talks like that too, but you know, that's like a really broad, vague thing. Like it's not tangible things about the game. Like and I feel
Yeah.
like sometimes Americans, at least third strike players, tend to talk more open, like theories about being defensive or offensive or whatever. When really you should be talking about, well, in this situation, like he has like 2 meters, like what do you think is the best choice I could make? Like, and then like you know what I'm saying? Like this is an
Yeah.
example, but mhm,
Okay. Cool. Cool. And it's funny that you mentioned the whole this whole thing about just talking to people,
mhm.
because I don't know if you read shoryuken.com,
Not
but
anymore, man.
but there was this article that someone wrote on shoryuken.com that was talking about how you know how people can revive the scenes for older games,
Hmm.
um, and and then on the in the same day I was listening to another podcast. Gosh, I wanted to give a shout out to this podcast. I forgot it, but the podcast, the guest was a ST player
Hmm.
by the name of El Trouble,
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm
and
not familiar, but I've heard the name and like,
yeah,
yeah.
and so like I was listening to the podcast, and the host was asking him about sort of his strategy for getting people to play ST,
Hmm.
and El Trouble was like, well, basically what we do is we try to well, number one, we try to get all the people who aren't happy with five. that's
Yeah.
that's the one of the things he does. But another thing that really struck me, another comment that El Trouble made, is that he was like, one of the things that they're doing supposedly is they're trying to sell players on the community and not the
Hmm.
game so much, right? Like, and what do you think about that? Like that
No,
approach?
I think that's cool too. Like, I think obviously, like, I think at this point in time, this, Third Strike's an old game now, so it's like really difficult to like sell the game. Like,
Hmm.
if and I think a lot of it is like time, place, occasion. Like, so it's like sometimes like you could do everything right, but it's not gonna come into fruition because it's just not in the cards. Like whether there's another game that people are more interested in, or maybe what I'm trying to say. Like, so it's like
Yeah.
a lot of, yeah. So I think but I think community is definitely a great thing. Something it's good and bad, I feel, is and this is a personal opinion, but I felt like in the past years, like the past meaning like this last one or two, I felt like uh not you solely, but like the I guess New York maybe. You guys had like it seemed like there's a lot of like rivalry, like trying to bring back a little bit more of like the East West kind of feel to it. And I think that's great to some degree, but I think the bigger thing should be more like, hey, like this game's really fun and we're having a great time. Come join us. Like it should be a bit more friendly. And there's pros and cons to that, but I think overall, like even in Japan, it seems like more like there's some like behind the scenes rivalry and dislike for people and stuff amongst their players. But overall, I feel it's more like, hey, we're having a great time. Like come join us.
Hmm.
So, I don't know if that's answering your question direct. I maybe veered off a bit, but
Oh, no, 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 definitely. I think just on behalf of what this is Third Strike and myself basically tried to do is you know I mean we just felt like a couple years ago no one was really sort of taking the initiative when it
Mhm,
comes to creating stuff for the scene,
mhm,
and you know could we have, and by we meaning this is Third Strike and the New
mhm.
York crew, you know could we have done certain things differently? Yeah, we could have,
Yeah,
but I'm personally I'm pretty proud
yeah. Well,
of what this is Third Strike has done in terms of bringing the scene back, and so maybe, but you're right, maybe it's time that we all just kind of get along,
yeah. Well,
you
I
know.
mean, and I'm not, I mean, there's a like, I mean, you need some rivalry, right? But I don't
Yeah.
think rivalry should be the main focus, I guess, is what I
Uh
mean.
huh.
Like
Yeah.
and touching back to what we talked about before was like one of my favorite things about TFC was like also playing people that I haven't played offline, but also just hanging out with them. Like it was like
Uh huh.
really good meeting you, for example, because we haven't met before.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. More of a personal touch, I guess.
Mhm.
But so kind of to rewind a little bit, as far as like promoting the game, I just want to say that maybe 2008 to like 2010 or 11, I really tried to like promote the game like here
Mhm.
locally in Dallas, and it failed miserably. So like I'm pretty jaded on trying to like grow the American community. Like
Mhm.
if we talked like 6 years ago, I would have been like, oh, like yeah, let's do this. Like yeah, we need to do this.
Well,
But
remember 6 years ago, right? It looked so promising. 3SO had just come out. It seemed as though Capcom was really cared about Third Strike and giving us a viable, you know, port. I mean, I know that you were on, Ryan and Farai's podcast. You had played online, so yeah, I definitely remember when you were just kind of when you were really all for that.
yeah.
Just out of curiosity, why do you think why do you think your attempts to kind of promote the game sort of fell on deaf ears?
Well, I mean, I didn't try too hard to like promote it like so if anything, I think like Ryan and Farai, like I think they tried to promote it more like on a
Hmm.
broader scale. Like for me, it was more just like my local scene. Why? I think honestly, it just has to do with like the players' interests. Like so, it's like why does Third Strike work so well in Austin? I don't know, man. Like
Hmm.
right? Isn't that
Maybe
like
because
a
it's Austin. Yeah, like,
yeah, like,
right.
and it just so happened, that I don't know. There's so many factors. It's hard to
Uh,
say. Like, I don't know why my attempt 6 years ago was a failure, and why Austin, without too much effort, can maintain that community and interest.
mm,
I don't know.
hmm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like for me, I've always felt like Japan. Like I think Pyroleaf said this before. I think Ryan said this before. Probably Five Star said this before. It's like I was like more of the thought like, of course I want to grow the American scene, but my priority was Japan. Like I always wanted to. I'm not saying win Co-op Cup or SBO, but I just like my dream for the longest time or for a good chunk of time was being able to hang with a Japanese player in a set.
Hmm.
Like I don't know, like just to be good, like to hang with them. It wasn't to win a tournament or to win an American major or anything like that, you know.
But do those have to be sort of, do those goals have to be, diametrically opposed? You know what I mean? Like, is there a way? Isn't there a way to sort of do both or use
Yeah.
both? Like,
Yeah, no, I definitely think so. Like it's just like I'm just explaining like where I was
yeah.
coming from like
Hmm.
then, you know. So I tried growing it here locally, failed, and then from there I was like, oh, whatever, like I'm just gonna focus on myself and
Uh huh.
Japan, you know, like this yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what El Trouble was saying in that podcast, and I think, and I think maybe they need third strike players might need to take a page out of the ST crew in SoCal,
Hmm.
try to sell players on the people, right,
Hmm.
more than just the game, because not to sound all kumbaya or anything, but there are a lot of like super interesting people in the
Hmm.
third strike community, and like that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast, because like for example, right, like you're super interesting, you're a yo-yo legend or a
Just
yo-yo champion, no one would know that.
just in
um
yo-yoing, but yeah.
well, there are people who aren't a champion in anything, so you know definitely kudos to you. So maybe that is something that the third strike community needs to do. My one thing is though is, and obviously I want to get your input on this, because for the longest time the only way you were able to play third strike was online.
Hmm.
um there's a lot of people that play third strike online on
Hmm.
Fightcade,
Hmm.
but what do you see their role in, and what do you see the role of the online community on Fightcade in terms of keeping this game alive? Do they have a role? I mean, are they,
Hmm.
what is it, how do we, like, because I know, there are a lot of online players, that there are some online players that are
Hmm.
interested in going to offline events,
Hmm.
but then there are also a lot of online players that,
They don't even know which super is the best super to pick.
but not just that, but just there are
Okay.
players that are
Yeah.
that are decent, but they
Uh,
have absolutely no interest in coming out.
I mean,
So,
I think that's a shame, but at the same
mhm,
time, like, I mean, I understand that this is an older game. Our player
mhm,
base is older, so you can't expect everyone to be 100% for third strike and like,
mhm,
not follow with their responsibilities or what, whatever. But I think there should be a little bit more compromise. It'd be great to see, like, Tenren's a great example. Like, I'd love to see him come out to Japan or a major that a lot of us are at, or something like that.
mhm. Oh, and I guess that brings me to my next question. I'm glad that
Mhm.
you brought up Tenren, because I asked this question to Ryan. You
Mhm.
know, I guess we're gonna assume, and probably maybe Kane can shed some light on this in the chat, but I'm just gonna assume that TFC is gonna happen again this year.
Mhm.
Are there any players that didn't show up at last year's TFC you'd like to show up this year?
Yeah.
Like in particular, like for example, Tenren, right?
So I'm just gonna like go with like players that I've played online but
Mhm.
haven't really got a chance to play offline.
Mhm.
Um, so already like I would say Tenren,
Mhm.
Cruz. I don't know if he's still playing that, but I'd still like
Mhm.
to play him offline. Denges, who's I think in the chat right now. Like I haven't played him offline, so that'd be fun. Um, there should be a few others, like some of like the SoCal guys that play at the Boiler Room. A lot of them I haven't got to play in person before and seems like they play pretty frequently, for American players. So it'd be great if some of them, I don't know how likely it'd be, but some of them to come out at least.
Mhm.
And as far as like other locations, I'm not as familiar with some of the East Coast players. Like I know the names, like uh, There's a Dudley player. What is his name, dude? Like I don't know. I just know that there are players over there that I've like either played on like GGPO back in the day or still participate in tournaments over there. So if they can make it out as well. Uh,
Hmm.
but oh, another last one is this like guy on Fightcade who's supposed to be really good. I only played him one time. Uh, I think Fightcade sucks and it's really laggy, so I can't. But
Well,
um,
there goes bringing the fight key community.
no,
I know. I'm just joking with
I'm
you.
not saying the players suck. That's not
Yeah.
what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's not an ideal
The
environment to
the
play in.
platform. Yeah, yeah,
Right. Like I'm not calling people out. Like, is this,
yeah.
I was like, what I'm trying to get at is I played this oral player named Atrove. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, H Rove. Yeah.
Yeah, a really good oral player. Like, I'd love to play that guy offline, see what it's
Hmm.
like offline as opposed to Fightcade, because
Hmm.
he knew what he was doing, like he knew all the setups and everything. So,
Really, I
yeah.
think Jinrai's better than H Rove.
Huh?
I think Jinrai's better than H Rove. That's just me, but
Oh, Jinrai?
yeah.
Well,
Shout outs to Canada,
I
but
mean, I'm
I don't
just
know if you've
speaking of
played.
my experience. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know if you've played Jinrai, but yeah,
I have, but
yeah.
I just felt like Atro was like a different style that I hadn't
Uh-huh.
played, and
Hmm.
I I definitely struggled with him more on Fightcade at least. I don't know about other, offline, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but that
But
could be because of Fightcade that you were struggling, and not because of the.
yeah, and like it's not fun to have that kind of doubt. It's
Yeah,
like games
it's
meant to
not.
play offline. Like, hey, if you can make it out to even just one event a year, like let's do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So, going back to the whole, what kind of advice would you give players? How about like, the mid-level players, the people who've been playing for, at least, 3 or 4 years, that are competent, you
Uh-huh.
know, but they're looking to sort of break through into that, next level.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
mean, like,
I feel like
is there any general advice you can give them, or is it just kind of just like it depends on the player?
yeah, well, like I feel like even like the advice I gave, my first advice about just like sharing information and
Uh-huh.
like having like like people to discuss the game with, I think that's like that applies to like any level of third strike.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, and I think like so if we were to rewind a bit, I think for beginners, I think they should just play. So they should
Mm-hmm.
get familiar with the game, watch videos. That's also things that you should be doing at an intermediate or high level anyway. But just get a feel for the game. I think if you're a beginner, like there's no way you're gonna like just like rush into a game unless you have prior fighting game experience.
Mm-hmm.
Even the concept of frame data, right, is like super foreign if you don't understand fighting games already.
Yeah, definitely.
So, so I'd say as a beginner, just enjoy it and just like mess around with various characters. Like I don't think like if you're a beginner, like don't get stuck on like one character right away. I think once you're intermediate, you probably should stick to a character or two and kind of limit yourself so you can focus and refine your play.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as a beginner, definitely just play, just absorb as much as you can, watch as much as you can. I think these are all advices that carry on at any level.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess for intermediate, if you want to like get more specific, I think a lot of it is something that I think anyone can do. That they should do a bit more of is like practicing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say practice, I don't mean like practice the combo or practice the hit confirm. I mean like practice the scenario. So like,
Good habits.
huh?
Practice good habits, I guess.
Well, I mean like almost like I don't know, like you can practice like
Or being
dash.
able to recognize certain things, right? Situational stuff. Is that what you're referring to
I
by
mean,
scenario?
some of that too, but I mean,
Yeah.
like, so for example, I'll give is just like dealing with jump-ins, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's like two ways you can practice that. One is against like CPU, whether that's in training mode or actual CPU. But in training mode, you can set it up so it's pretty much CPU. And this like the entire round, like look for that and a few other things. It's practice dashing under, walking under. Um, so that's like one scenario. Another scenario might be like just guarding something and like reversaling. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you can practice by recording it first and with the dummy, and then later on you can do it against CPU because like
Okay.
they'll do it more randomly, right? So then you have to be able to react to it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I mean those are just two examples. Like, uh, I don't know. Another one might be like recording your opponent like leaking a super, so it's kind of like just to get the feel of like waiting a second and then punishing to. I mean, there's so many different scenarios. I could probably like name like more and more, but uh
Hmm.
I guess use training mode and CPU to its fullest, like not just for combos and, hit confirms.
Hmm. Cool, cool, cool. So what I'd like to do now is maybe get to some of the questions that people who are still with us would like to ask Yuki. And so, one of the questions that I saw is from Lance. So Lance asked earlier on the show,
Mhm,
Yuki,
mhm.
and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but do you prefer Latin women or Asian women?
Oh man, I pick both.
Both. You're gonna
It just
option select
depends.
that question.
Just depends. No, you
Just
know
to.
what? No, if I answer this serious,
Uh huh.
I haven't had much experience with Latin women, so there's that definitely curiosity there.
Uh huh.
Um, on the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm more familiar with Asian women. So it's just different ends of the spectrum. Both are
Okay.
cool.
So Denges in the chat asks, how do you confirm crouching medium kick to DP?
What character? Like,
Ken. I'm assuming. I don't know. Maybe Ken. I guess that's what I'm assuming. Be more specific, Denges.
well,
but
and I mean, I think that there probably is a difference because, like,
and
so
which
for
kind? Which strength DP? Right? Like.
yeah, and then like for those that don't know, and I could be wrong by a frame or two with the numbers, but if I remember right, Ken's low forward has a longer cancel window than Ryu's and
Hmm.
Goki's. I want to say something like 13 or something, and then Goki and Ryu has only 11 or something like that.
Hmm.
So, but uh, either way, how do you confirm it? That's like situationally, I think. So like it's a lot harder to confirm it into Shoryu if they're crouching, but if
Hmm.
they're standing and you see that they're standing, like you can do it that way.
Yeah.
What else? Like, I mean, I don't know. Just so many factors. Sound.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, if you can like sometimes when I play online because of the rollback, like I'll like leak something, but it's
Hmm.
really because I see that the health meter drained, or
Oh.
or I'll hear the sound of it hitting, but it's actually not because of the rollback. So
Hmm.
I think like even just seeing like the life like change in the corner for a split second, or like hearing the audio, all of those like things factor into confirming.
That's really interesting that you say that, Yuki, because just personally, in my opinion, I always feel like one of the things that really separates good players from great players is how much information they can be aware of, at any certain point in a match. You know what I mean? Like, are you able to sort of multitask mentally? Like, what are you looking at on the screen? What are you what are you paying attention to? And
Mhm.
so that's kind of cool that you said that because, like, you're paying attention to the sound, you're looking
Well,
at the meter, the
but those
life.
two, I think those two in those cases is like subconscious. Like I'm not like
Mhm.
my main focus isn't the health or the
Mhm.
audio, but those cues like trigger a response to hit confirm it. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But just to be, just to be aware of those things, and just to have them trigger those things in your mind. I mean, not everyone can do that. So I think that's
I think
pretty cool.
I think it's familiarity. Like if you play, you spend so much time in one thing. Like, well,
Yeah.
and then it's obviously how much have you been playing lately too, right? Like I don't know
Hmm.
if I do that as well right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So Lance has another question. So Lance asks, "Who is the most exciting up and coming player, and does he live in Alaska?"
Yeah. Oh, Lance, you're always exciting. No.
Not always for the right reasons, but.
Yeah. Um, no. If I were to answer that question seriously, who's the most exciting up and coming player? Ah, man, that's really hard. I don't know if like I might have like some like personal. I don't know. I feel like this year it's like post like or pre TFC, I can like easily answer this better, but post TFC, I don't really since I don't play that much recently. I don't know
Mhm.
where people stand, and there might be someone that I don't know that's getting better right now because I don't play.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, there's some like personal, I guess, people that I'd like to see further improving. Is like so like Shin from Austin. Probably a little biased because like Austin, right? But
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I just think it's like he has the advantage of like understanding Japanese, and he's like, he's very like he might not always play this way, but at least he as a person he's like really analytical. He's like a
Uh-huh.
programmer, so I think he has like room for growth. I think Lance is another person, but for different reasons, but more because he's so juiced and excited on Third Strike. I feel like
Yeah,
compared to
right. Like, don't you wish like you could just bottle up whatever Lance is on and just sprinkle it,
yeah, right.
onto people, and then you could create Dirt Strike communities that way.
Mhm. I
He just sort of reminds me of how idealistic we were back then. About the
yeah,
game.
I know for sure. No, but I think Lance is. I think he's if I understand correctly, I think he's had some of his like on and offs with it too.
Mm.
But who else? Oh, Sherwin. Uh,
Mm.
Sherwin. I think this last before TFC, and I think even now, he seems like he's like really dedicated to Third Strike right now and
Hmm.
playing. Like he's someone that not this last month, but like before TFC and after TFC that I would talk to about chat about the game with, and just
Mm-hmm.
like sharing information, and he even shared stuff with me that I didn't know.
Mm.
So I think he's someone, and he's like planning on going to Japan later this year and
Mm-hmm.
maybe for Co-op Cup. So I think he's definitely a player that has like a goal and like the right things to improve. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably forgetting two or three other people or so. I'm sorry, like it's off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions, guys? Before any other questions? No. All right. One of the last things I want to talk about, Yuki. So how about you? In terms of your future with the game. I
Uh,
mean, I know that
I'm
you've
kind of at a crossroads right now. I mean, I don't need to get too in depth with it because we've already been talking for a good chunk of time now. Um, just put it simply, I don't know right now.
Mhm.
I feel like my peak or my peak interest was around 2000 between 2010 and 2014. I think that was like my peak interest.
Mhm.
Like I hadn't returned to Japan since like I was a scrub, so I just felt like I had all this like motivation to be at their level and to prove myself to myself and I mean others too. Um, so I think it's hard for me to see myself being as into or more into Third Strike than that part of my life unless I move to Japan or something like that happens.
Mhm.
But I mean, there's no way I'm gonna quit Third Strike, right? Like, I mean, there's no way you're gonna quit 100% either. Like, none of us can 100%. So,
No, I'm gonna
uh,
be the first person to completely retire from playing Third Strike.
you can't do it. Well, I mean, you can
I'm
do
gonna
it
be
for.
I'm gonna be the first person in history to do that. I've done a pretty good job. I haven't touched the game. Oh no, see, I already lied. I touched the game when an old friend came, like a couple like last month.
Yeah, I mean,
But aside from that, yeah.
no, but I mean, there's no way to 100% cut it out. You might get down to 99% or something, or but not 100. So yeah, no, I mean, like it's hard to say. Like I feel like I want to play it more if I was gonna visit Japan soon, or if there was something like if I were to go to Austin, right? Like I
Uh-huh.
definitely start playing a bit before I go down, so I'm not as rusty.
Mhm.
Um, so it's kind of hard to say right now. I just feel like I need to focus on other aspects of my life right now because
Fair enough. Yeah.
I've tended in the past to focus on my hobbies a lot more than other aspects. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Cool. Cool. Well, before you go, Yuki, we have one more thing to do tonight. And I think Colton has already sort of spoiled it. But
I'm
so
read the chat right now. See.
yeah. What does Yuki think of Dander?
Oh, is that really? No, that's Lance.
Yeah, it's Lance again. So, I know we've been talking about building the community, everything, and and about sort of turning a new leaf, but
Mhm.
you know what? I just can't, Yuki. There's just so much bad Third Strike on YouTube, dude. Like if you can't, like you just got to be able to laugh about it, right?
Mm.
Like, so I figure, since you're known for your super precise execution, I
Nah,
thought
that's
I
not.
thought it would be there would be no better episode,
Uh-huh.
to bring this back than the episode that you're on. So without further ado, guys, we're going to bring back, at least Colton's favorite segment, and that's Pack It Up. So are you guys ready for another edition of Pack It Up? So for those of you who haven't, for those of you who haven't watched House of Strikes, basically what I've done is I've scoured YouTube for some of the more memorable Third Strike lowlights that have happened this past week. And so I've picked out 5 nominees, and I want you guys to tweet me at Mutant XP and let me know which one's your favorite. And so, are you ready, Yuki?
Yep, let's
Are
go.
you ready to see some of these highlights? I know Colton on the chat is ready. So, without further ado, here comes the return of Pack It Up. All right, pack it up. So, nominee number one, Arab Warrior manages to choke this round away with one of the worst Aegis setups in history. Just wait for it.
Oh,
Oh my god, that's definitely not RKF worthy, right?
what was going on there?
Nominee number two. Speaking of making good supers look bad, it's back to training mode for these two Makoto players. Tominaga must be rolling in his grave, even though he's not dead yet.
What is going on?
Alright, nominee number three. So, I don't know, Yuki. I guess one dumb move deserves another. As this Goki player decides to follow up an ill-advised super with an even more ill-advised teleport. I definitely think that's a product of online. He definitely teleported before he even knew what Q was doing there.
Yeah.
No, nominee number four. So, okay, here, Yuki. Everyone gets hit with wake up supers, right? Even you. But it takes a real talent to get hit with one on your wake up. Look at this.
Nah, I mean, that's not. Well, was he gonna chip right there?
No, it wasn't. It was, hey, that super's good, right? 2 frame startup, supposedly,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I mean, like, I'll see later.
Okay. All right. So, nominee number five. If someone made a PSA on the merits of blocking in fighting games, these 2 rounds would probably be in it. So remember, kids, no blocking, no life. Look at that round. Now, I don't know which one's your favorite, Yuki. You gotta let me know. But that round was pretty amazing. Oh my god.
I'm really curious what each of them were trying each time.
So, pick your favorite. Let me know what your favorite is from this week's Pack It Up. And if you guys, know of a YouTube video or seen a clip that you think deserves to be on Pack It Up, tweet us, let us know. So, what did you think of that showcase of Third Strike talent right there, Yuki?
I think my favorite might have been the Makoto ones because it's like if you play SA2 like Tosa, like
Yeah.
that's like you're supposed to know the distances and like that's like your bread and butter combo, right? Like Tominaga, like I mean, nowadays he has like a more wholesome game. But when he was first like making like a splash in the scene, he was known as just that guy that does double Fukiage all the time. So yeah, it's like you have to know how to do that. Like yeah.
Definitely, definitely. All right, guys. So that's it for this episode of the Mutant Experience. Before I let you guys go, I just wanted to let everybody know of some events that are coming up. So first and foremost, now these aren't in order. For some reason, OBS Studio doesn't recycle slideshows. So, well, anyway, that's a technical thing. Anyway, Texas Showdown. Shout outs to all the Texas players, including Yuki. There's going to be Third Strike there, May 5th to 7th. So definitely check that out. KD Alpha's doing some good work. Another big tournament, same weekend, the Hado Street Fighter tournament in France. just recently announced Exodus is going to be making an appearance there this weekend, tomorrow, in fact. Winter Brawl 11. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to go, but there are going to be a lot of strong East Coast Third Strike players. And speaking of Third Strike, Michigan Masters is a major that's happening in the Midwest, April 1st. And so, speaking of Michigan Masters, next week, I don't know if you're oh there. Well, let's not watch that again. So I don't know if you've watched their stream channel before, Yuki.
Mm.
But have you ever watched the Poverty Game Night, guys?
I've seen it pop up because of the Third Strike. I think
Yeah,
they play occasionally, but I've never
yeah,
actually watched it for any length
yeah.
of time. Yeah.
So they're run by a group called KO Arcade, and and they're gonna be helping put on Third Strike and a bunch of other old school games for Michigan Masters. And with that said, next week, Thursday, same time, we're gonna have some of the people from the KO Arcade, including Onagi. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he plays on
Mm.
Xbox Live on the stream to talk about Michigan Masters and just talk about their just to talk about their scene in general.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys are curious as to the schedule for the podcast, I do have the schedule up on the website, so definitely check that out. Definitely follow me, and this is Third Strike on Twitter. Again, the reruns or the video should be up. Hopefully, I think I clicked on the archive this time, so I think there will be proof that this podcast exists, Yuki.
Mhm.
And also the Shen is kind enough to agree to also host episodes of my podcast on his world famous Third Strike channel.
Oh, that's
So
great. Yeah.
so shout outs to the Shen. So before I let everyone go, do you have do you have anything you want to say, Yuki, before we shut it down?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just wanted to take this opportunity to promote my signature yo-yo that just got
Yes.
released not too long ago, the Kayak. So it's my player model or signature yo-yo. Has my signature right there inside the package.
This
Um,
man, like you are a legend.
um,
That's like Ori coming out with a stick with my signature on it, which will never happen, right?
Logo
Wow.
for the Kayak on the opposite end has my name on there. Um, so I don't know the exact price, but I believe this retails for $80. I know that's pretty steep for a beginner, but if you have any interest in it, or I don't know, if there's for some reason you want to buy a yo-yo and $80 is not too much for you, like I get a portion of the royalties, so that'd be cool. If not, like buy me a beer when we meet sometime. That'd be awesome. Either way,
Hmm.
just wanted to quickly put that out.
And where can they get the yo-yo? Uh,
There's several places, but I believe the most, I guess, common place to purchase yo-yos now is yoyoexpert.com.
YoYoExpert.com.
Yeah, there's definitely other vendors online, but that's the most well renowned, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for being on the show, Yuki. I know we went over a little bit, but hopefully
Yeah.
you'll come back.
Yeah, no,
And
definitely. I feel like there's so much to talk about, so let's do it again sometime in the not too far future.
all right, guys. So on behalf of Yuki, this is Mutant XP signing off. I'll see you next Thursday when my special guest will be the Michigan Poverty Game Night crew. So until then, play Third Strike. It's a good game, and I will see you guys later. Bye,
Yep.
guys.
Thanks.